Nice music, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our show. Your host today will be Brother Benjamin Shabazz, myself, and we have been blessed to have a very special guest today that was been on a very special trip, and she's come all the way back here to let us know some of the things that she observed. And her name is Sister Annie Green. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Okay,
Thanks
so,
for having me.
oh yeah, this is a great thing. You know, when people do things and they want to share back with the community, because a lot of people, they don't have the finances or the time to do these kind of things, and to go back to the motherland is special.
It truly is, and people need to realize that if you can do this, you should do it because it shows you who we are and where we came from. So it's a blessing. I was blessed to be able to do this, and I'm thankful that I could, and I'm glad I can share.
Okay, so you have some photos and things you want to share with us?
Yeah, I have a few photos. Actually, I had a lot, but we're going to just go through a few and just kind of give you an overview of the kind of things that we saw. This trip was really good because we had the opportunity to go to 4 different regions in Ghana, which is really pretty special. It's not a trip for the faint at heart because you have to do a lot of walking and it's pretty hot, but I recommend doing this because you see so much. You get a chance to really see the countryside, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, but you actually get a chance to see a lot of stuff that you wouldn't see ordinarily. So.
All right, well, let's open it up with giving a lot of glorification, then we'll get right into it. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ameen. All right, so you can start it off.
Okay. One of the first pictures we have is of an African prince. We went to his tomb called, I'm sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing his name. It's
Kwame.
Kwame
Nkrumah.
Nkrumah, yes.
Right.
And this was his tomb that we went to, and he was a pretty prominent African king there. And that tomb is there, and we had the opportunity to go there. His wife is also entombed there, but the biggest tomb, as you can see right here, was actually him. And so that was really very interesting because this tomb, is a huge park actually, and so his tomb is kind of the main attraction there. So we had a chance to go there and pour libations and kind of talk about this particular king there. And while we were there, we had the opportunity to see, because there were kids there, and my son had the kids doing the power sign. So that was really nice. And it was just a real fruitful trip to see all the kids there and them being able to interact with us too.
Now, so whose children are these?
This is a school, you know, like they have schools that go to different parks and stuff. Like here, they take the kids to see the different heroes of Ghana, and
Okay.
this person was one of the big heroes in Ghana. So
Okay.
the kids were there.
Okay, all right.
See, now one of the things that I found that was really interesting in being in Ghana is that this is one of the pictures that you see all the time. I mean, on both sides of the streets, as you drive through the countryside, people sell everything. You see, you might see beds, gates for your houses, slate, because slate is a big thing there. They have a lot of slate and granite and that kind of stuff. But everything you want, you see on the streets, because they don't have a lot of shopping centers. They just start building. They built the new one in Accra, which we were in. But this is basically what you see all the time. People all the time, everywhere. This is another picture. You see the clothes hanging and the people carrying the stuff on their heads. That's something that you see all the time. And like the streets are made of like this red clay. And you see, when you drive through the streets, you see people selling their wares because they don't have social programs like they have here. So everybody is there to make the money that they can every day.
So I have a question. I'm looking at these cars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, put that picture back up there. Yeah, I'm looking at these cars. So what these cars don't fit into that scenario. Those cars are expensive.
What you mean of people not having no money? Oh, well, that's one of the things that America tries to portray, is that people are poor, and there are poor people, yeah, but they're very industrious. They're there and they make their money, and there are people there that have money.
Who's driving those cars? Africans?
Africans. In fact, that was one of the things that was really interesting. The first 4 days we were in Accra, we didn't see any white people. None. I mean, in fact, there was a busload or what they call a trotro, which is a bus or a cab that has a lot of people in it. And it was a cab full of white people, and we goes, oh, white people. We didn't see them for 4 days, none at all. But, you know, you see people on the streets and stuff, and even though people say, oh, people are hungry, there's food everywhere, you know, as you can see. It's very, very busy there.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is, we also, we sponsored like two schools and orphanage. And this particular day was like on a Friday. And the ladies there, they were in red and black because it was the mourning day. And so they posed for me so that we could take pictures of them. And we were on our way to the orphanage that we sponsored. And it took us like, oh my God, you walk through the village and you go through this huge village, and you walk for about an hour in the sun, and it's like and it's hot, very, very hot. But these ladies were dressed for the mourning, and everybody in the whole village dresses in red and black, basically.
So does the red and black, is it symbolic or something?
I don't know. I don't think it is, because different villages had different colors. But this particular village, they were all dressed in red and black.
Okay.
Okay. This is the orphanage that we were walking to get to at the very end of the village, and I think there's like 35 to 40 kids at this particular orphanage. And the one thing that I found in Africa, and that's why I was saying it was good, bad, and ugly, is that the infrastructures were not as well together as far as like the plumbing. Even in the really good hotels, sometimes you had problems with the plumbing. But this is one of the orphanages that we were sponsoring, and it's called Trinity. Okay. And this is a classroom with some of the kinds of desks that the kids have. As you can see, it's pretty old school, you know, and it's pretty primitive. But that's just why we should get involved and try to help the people in these particular villages. Now, this is, like I said, we went to several different regions, and this is a tree that one of the curators at the Botanical Gardens, he carved. As you can see, it's pretty intricate, and he said he wasn't really finished. But this is on a tree. Can you imagine carving that many? But it also shows how talented we are. We as a people have so much talent, and it's just amazing. Yeah, this man carved that, and he said, oh, I still have some more to go. I couldn't see where he could put anything else, but obviously he thought there was more to do. And this is the guy, and I can't remember his name, but this is the person that actually worked on that particular tree. And we were in the Botanical Gardens that day, and he's one of the curators there. So it was really very interesting to be able to talk to him, and we bought some jewelry and stuff from him.
I see more than one carved tree. There's one in the background there.
I think that's a shoot from that particular tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But it's one tree. And that's the thing, in the Botanical Gardens, we saw some of these trees were like hundreds of years old, but this was very, very interesting to be able to see this kind of stuff. I think this is that 100-year-old tree that I was talking about, and it's so big you can't even take the whole tree. Now this is a picture when we went to Elmina Coast in one of the slave dungeons. And this gentleman, I bought a book and a DVD that tells you about the slave dungeons. And we have the impression that it was mostly Arabs and stuff that enslaved us. But from this place in Ghana, in Elmina, it was actually the Portuguese and the Dutch who did this enslavement. And this particular castle we're in the courtyard right there. And what he was telling us is that they would, like the governors or the people over the castle, they would bring out the women and they put them into this thing right here called a washer, which when they bring them into the courtyard, and the governor would stand in the court up above them and pick out a woman that he would want, and then he would dunk them into this dungeon to clean them, and then he could bring them upstairs to do whatever. It was kind of intense when you went through these, and this was a group of that went on this particular trip. It was like 38 of us, which was, kind of intense. And Bomani, he's from Atlanta, but he's actually originally born in Jamaica, and he had his young son who was 6 years old too. So this is pretty much who went on that trip, and they were like lawyers, and it was pretty interesting to see. A lot of people came from Atlanta. But there was like my son and myself, and then there was a family here from Seattle also. So it was his wife, this gentleman has a wife, and his brother, and his cousin, and his son. So, I mean, there was quite a few people that had, their families with them too.
Do you have pictures of Elmina with the door of no return?
I think I do have some. I'm not really sure. This is at Elmina Coast. As you can see, one of the things that we found out is that in Ghana, what the villagers do, they're fishermen. And so this was a picture from Elmina Coast. And you could see the fishermen. Early in the mornings, we would get up and you would see the fishermen in the waters. This is a gentleman. If you can't zoom into him, but if you see his face, he's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" But he's knitting these particular nets. He's making them. Those nets, that green thing in front. Those are the nets that they use to fish with. Now this is the Atlantic Ocean, which after we did the Elmina Coast, we did what we call a naming ceremony on this particular beach, which is at New Africa, where this one lady, I can't think of her name right now, but she owns this particular beach, and people came and we did a naming ceremony down in the Atlantic. And if you can see that island way in the back, that's actually the Elmina Coast dungeons that we had just come from.
You mean straight in the back?
Yeah,
way out,
right there, way in the back.
Way in the back,
that little mountain over there. That's
yeah.
And the water is just really warm, and we felt so free because most people, you're giving parties and stuff, and we had a big party there, and they had the drums and all the stuff, and nobody came and told you need to quiet down because it was yours. And that's the thing about going there, is that you really feel free. You feel home. So it was a real good feeling. Let me see. Now this is a view from one of the hotels we were at. Now that's what I was talking about, the good, bad, and the ugly. Now you can see there's a guard Braille. Now, the locals cannot just come into the hotels that we stayed at. Every place we went had guards, and they had barbed wire, even in the most expensive hotels and stuff. So it is still third world, and you are reminded of that, because everywhere we went, of course, we were on a tour, and we had people from Ghana and Accra that knew the place, and so we always had people in the middle, at the front, and the back, you know. So we always had guards around us. So it's not like you can just go there and you know, go on your own unless you know somebody, you know, because like I said, it is a third world country, so that, you know, that you have to be aware of.
You know, it's like that in Cuba, and it's like that in Mexico, some places.
Well, you know, the thing is that they do welcome us, you know, so I don't want you to get the wrong impression. The Ghanaians do welcome us there, but they do still see us as a form of income, because we come from America, and they assume that we're just like white people. We got lots of money, and you do bring us a certain amount of money. You come there to participate and bring your money so that you can lift up that village or that town or wherever you are. So they do look at us in that way. So when you go, you do have to be careful. You just can't just go willy-nilly. Because my son is in the process of thinking of buying some property there. In fact, he just came back. But he does know some people there that he's been talking to. So one of the things that they tell us is that we need to come and find out what's really going on in Africa. Because right now our money is like 3.9%, which means it's almost $1 is $4 there. So for right now, it's very good to go and buy land. But one thing that you have to remember is that when you buy land there, you got to make sure that the land you buy is actually being given to you by the person that actually owns it, because it is a corrupt place. So you have to make sure that whoever you buy it from actually owns it. Yeah. Because it's not like here where the government is in charge of that stuff. There, the kings and the chiefs are in charge of land and stuff. And when you buy land, you have to make sure that you know that you have water rights and that kind of stuff, because you can't just hook up to the PG&E or public utilities, because that's not what's there. What happened? Okay. Huh. We got more pictures, I know. Just trying to go forward. Well, I don't know. I had quite a few more pictures on here. I don't know what's happening, but.
Do we need somebody from the control room to come out here and make this happen?
I don't know, because we had a lot more pictures on here. Oh, here we go.
Coming up?
Yeah. Is it there?
There we go.
Okay, and one of the places that we went to was the Last Baths. It's called the Last Baths. And this particular picture was on one of the walls. There's a whole mural. But this is, once they go through the baths, they actually brand people. And that's what they used to do to us. And these people will walk for like 15, 20 miles or more to get to the Last Baths before they got to Elmina Coast. And then they would take them to the Last Baths. And the thing about when you go through the Last Baths, the water...
Is it the last what?
Baths. The baths.
Bath?
Baths, like you take a bath.
Right.
Because, you know, they've walked for 20, 30 miles to get here. And this is before they get to Elmina Coast, where they go get on the ships. So they take up through the Last Baths to clean them. And only the strong survive to get to this point. And so they would take them here, and then they would bathe them.
So was that supposed to be a Muslim?
What?
on
This
that
guy,
on that little boy?
it was an African.
No, he had on a kufi though.
Yeah, I don't know if he was Muslim or not. I couldn't tell you that.
I mean, well, that's supposed to be the implication though.
Might be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, that's true. Because while I was there, I did see Muslims. I saw mosques, but you see a lot of Christians. In fact, you see, it ain't funny, but it's kind of funny because you would see these advertisements, these billboards of churches, and the minister would be at the bottom, but you would see a big white Jesus at the top. So that's still very prevalent there.
In Africa?
In Africa. Mm-hmm.
White Jesus in Africa?
White Jesus in Africa. And that's how they kind of controlled us for a lot of years, is through that whole idea of that Jesus was going to come and, save us. And I think people still kind of believe that. But yeah, in Africa, yeah.
Wow.
It is kind of discouraging, but yeah, it's still there. I did see mosques, but you saw a lot of Christianity in Africa, in Ghana.
Were the pictures big of Jesus?
Huge billboards all across the countryside, yeah. Huge billboards. And that was kind of, in fact, while we was there, like I said, we didn't see a whole lot of white people, but on the way back, there was a group that came to the hotel that we were at, and they were there to sell seeds and stuff, those GMOs.
Yeah, Monsanto. Evil seeds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And one of the ladies was a lawyer, and Stephanie, she got on her computer and she was writing letters, and we were handing out flyers to the community and so they could get to the chiefs to tell them that these seeds, once you plant them, it kills your soil. And so what it does is that it kills your soil, and the plants that you get, you can't regenerate. And so you have to keep coming back to them to buy these seeds, And so the same game is being played, and it's really kind of discouraging to even think about that, but that's what's going on, So, yeah, some things don't change, and that's a scary thought, but that's true. But so, yeah, that was the last baths, and we did go through. The thing about when we went to the last baths is that when you go because we had a chance to actually go to the water and wash ourselves, and you can see gold flecks in the water. Can you imagine you're being sold, but you're being washed in gold before you go? But yeah, the water still has gold flecks, because one of the things that was really interesting to me is that when we rode through the countryside, when the sun would reflect, you could see the gold flecks in the mountains. And it's so disturbing to think that the people have to work so hard and they have all this wealth there. But we still have people coming, like from China and other places, still using the same kind of techniques that they used hundreds of years ago to continue to take things from us. And, people still are under the influence.
So isn't it a government policy that if you find gold or diamonds or anything on your property, you can't benefit from it? You have to report it to the government?
You do, because that's what, but the lady from One Africa was saying is that there was a point where the gold was coming up onto the shores and stuff, and they were digging it up, and for 1 week, they actually took the gold and, could trade it. But the government came and shut it down and told them, even on her property, that she couldn't do that. So they still are pretty much in control, pretty much in control of a lot of stuff, which is kind of disheartening. But the one thing about moving to Africa is that if you buy land, because you're not a Ghanaian, you can only lease the land. You used to be able to lease the land for 99 years. Now you can lease the land for only 50 years unless you buy directly from a chief or a king. And if you buy directly from a chief or a king, then you have a straight shot of the land being theirs. Or if you marry a Ghanaian, then you also have access to being able to get the land without having to lease it. But if you're not, you still have to lease the land. So there's a lot of questions about what you do and how you do stuff there. So you do have to do your work, you know, and I suggest, you know, going and really figuring out exactly what you need to do, because with anything, you do have to do your homework, you know. Now this picture right here is some of the ladies. There's a place in Ghana where this ink is made, and they make it the same way they've made it for hundreds of years. And they take the bark and they put it in water and they pound it in order to get the essence out. Are we getting a signal here?
Yeah, let's see how many more pictures we can get in.
Well, this is the bark, and this guy right here is one of the chief's sons, and he kind of oversees it. It was really crazy because you saw this. They had these huge pots that they boil it in, and they boil it down, and it becomes black. And this is the only place you can get this particular ink to. You can't get it anyplace else. This is a picture. We kind of going out. But this is a picture of a monkey sanctuary we went to. Like I said, we went to so many different places. It was just amazing. But you could hold the banana, and the monkeys would come and grab the man. You had to hold it really tight, because if you didn't, they would snatch and grab. I said, oh, this is where the snatch and grab came from, because they would just grab it and just run back up into the trees. So it was a great adventure. I mean, we had so many things that we had a chance to see. And I suggest that if you ever get a chance, you take the time.
You know, we're running out of time, but I know we can like to do another show. But I see on the screen, we have a YouTube channel. This show will also be on YouTube.
Oh, that's good.
So subscribe to the YouTube channel, Community Issues Group, Al-Islam Center, Seattle, Washington. Sister Annie Green, thank you so much for coming out, spending your time to share with us. Thank you most of all so much for making that trip.
You know, Allah blesses us with the things that we never know about. You know, it was a blessing to be able to do this, and I suggest that anybody that can, I suggest you do, because it's a trip of a lifetime.